Hey, welcome to Lead Up Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Harbour. This is a conversation for leaders who understand that culture isn't a perk, it's a performance strategy. So today we're tackling something most leaders don't intend to get wrong, but unfortunately many do. According to research, 88% of employees believe that strong culture is critical to business success. Yet fewer than 30% believe their leaders actively protect it. That gap, that's where performance leaks. Trust erodes and talent walks away. Look, I wrote a book a few years ago called Quit Losing Talent. Our goal is to help you, the leader, the organization, build a culture where people want to stay. So this episode's for you if you want to learn about the 8 silent company culture killers. We're going to talk about each one of those and how they're affecting you and how they're draining resources from your bottom line every single day. Look, these 8 culture killers, they're not loud failures. They're quiet. They are normalized. And often they come from good intentions paired with maybe some outdated leadership habits. As we walk through each one today, I'll share what the research says, how it shows up in your executive teams, and the leadership shift required to stop the damage before it compounds. So let's begin with the most understood one of all. Number one, company culture killer. We are family. The we are family mentality. Look, I know this sounds good. It sounds warm. It sounds loyal. It sounds safe. But in practice, it often becomes emotional manipulation disguised as culture. Families, and if your family's like mine, families tolerate dysfunction. High performing organizations do not. Research from the Business Harvard Review shows that workplaces using family language are more likely to blur boundaries, normalize overwork, guilt employees into loyalty instead of earning it. When leaders say family, but act with hierarchy, secrecy, or favoritism, trust begins to collapse. And look, we don't have to look very far. We know, maybe you feel this as well. We have a huge trust gap in the world right now. Trust is at an all-time low as it relates to people trusting those that are in leadership positions. So culture isn't about closeness. It's about clarity. Gallup tells us this, that employees who feel emotionally manipulated are 2.3 times more likely to disengage and 1.9 times more likely to leave within 12 months. Question I have for you right now, can you stand another loss of great talent? Can your organization, can it stand to continue to miss the mark when it comes to employee engagement? Look, Adam Grant says this, the most toxic workplaces are the ones that confuse loyalty with silence. Here's the leadership shift for you in this. And look, I'm hitting the top of the waves in these 8 culture killers today. But I just want to bring your awareness to these things that, look, your intent is good, but that may be creating culture dysfunction for you. Here's the shift in this first one, this family mentality. Replace family with team. Teams have standards. Teams have roles. Teams can hold each other accountable without emotional debt. I just think, as I record this, we're just coming off of the Super Bowl weekend. The Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl this year. This team, the football team, Seattle Seahawks, have standards. They hold each other accountable. They have a common goal. They don't shy from high expectations. It's not about family. It's about team. It's about team goal. Therefore, they were able to outpace and outplay everyone else this year in the NFL. Culture killer number 2, micromanagement. Micromanagement is rarely about control. It's about fear of mistakes, fear of letting go, fear of being exposed. But the cost to you as an organization is staggering. More research from Gallup shows that managers account for 70%. Let me say that again. 70% of variance in team engagement. managers, that direct leader over your teams. And micromanagement is one of the top predictors of burnout. Managed employees don't stop caring. They don't stop caring about the organization. They stop thinking because they can't do anything without being questioned all the time or being told that's not the right way. Innovation doesn't survive under surveillance. Simon Sinek says this: the best leaders don't create followers, they create conditions where people lead themselves. I've often said, if you listen to me here on the Lead Up podcast, that the true measure of leadership is, can you develop another leader who can develop another leader? That's true empowerment, and it's moving away from micromanagement. So here's the shift you need to make to start moving away toward moving away from micromanagement and toward a healthy culture. Move from task oversight to outcome ownership. If you don't trust your people, the system, not the people, is broken. Here's the third culture killer: too many managers, too few doers. This is the silent bureaucracy killer. Layer upon layer of approval, meetings about meetings, decisions that die in process. McKinsey research shows that organizations with excessive management layers experience 30 to 50% slower decision making. Yet we live in an era where speed wins. Change is happening all the time, and those who adapt, change, move faster than the competition win the race. But yet, if we have this layer of these extra layers of bureaucracy, it slows down decision making. It slows down the ability for our team to move forward by up to 30 to 50%. There's lower frontline accountability and then higher disengagement among our top performers. Look, top performers want to be set loose, set free to go do their job. But when we have these extra layers, they get disengaged, and then you lose them. They won't tell you, but they all of a sudden one day they just come in and say, I've had enough. I'm leaving on. So when leaders stop doing, they lose context. When managers stop shipping, meaning moving things forward, they stop earning credibility. Lawrence Peters said, bureaucracy defends the status quo long past the time when the quo has lost its status. Just think about that for a minute. Here's your shift. Flatten where possible. Less man, more doers. Flatten where possible. Empower where necessary. And ensure leaders stay close to the work, not just the reporting. Here's the fourth silent culture killer: ignoring employee feedback. How many times have you done an employee engagement, performed like you were part of that employee engagement survey, and nothing ever happened from the feedback? Asking for feedback and doing nothing is actually worse than not asking for it at all. Because people, when they give us feedback, they want us to take action as leaders. It teaches people one thing: your voice doesn't matter here. If we're asking for feedback and we do nothing with it. I write about this in my book, Quit Losing Talent. I have a whole tactic called respond to feedback. We have to do that as leaders. Microsoft's Work Trend Index shows that employees who feel unheard are 4.6 times more likely to feel disengaged and significantly more likely to withhold ideas. They just quit sharing. And that's the worst place you can be as a leader. Feedback ignored becomes silence. Silence becomes attrition. Stephen Covey said this: the biggest communication problem is that we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. Here's your shift, leaders. Close the loop. Respond visibly. Even when the answer is no, clarity builds trust. Let's look at number 5. Fifth silent culture killer: decisions behind closed doors. Transparency isn't about sharing everything. This is why some leaders don't share it all, because they think, well, if I can't share everything, then I'm being dishonest. Leadership is about sharing enough. Transparency is about sharing enough. When decisions appear out of nowhere, people fill in the gaps. They make up their own truth. And the stories they tell themselves are rarely generous. They're rarely true. And it spreads throughout the organization. The Edelman Trust Barometer reports that organizational trust increases by 75% when leaders explain why decisions are made, even unpopular ones. Look, all we have to do is be more engaged as leaders, communicate more effectively, the why behind the decisions that we're making. Why are we going a certain direction? Why are we investing in this technology? Why are we investing in this training? Why are we saying no right now to the things that feel like we should be saying yes to? Brene Brown puts it this way: trust is built in small moments, especially when people are watching how you decide. So here's your shift, leaders. Explain the thinking, share the trade-offs, invite understanding, even if you can't invite agreement. Look, if you're a middle manager, a mid-level leader, and you don't really understand the thinking, then you've got to ask up so that you can share down. That's an important concept in leadership. Many leaders say, well, I don't really understand this, so I'm not going to share everything. Or they go share it and they throw executive leadership under the bus, undercutting their own leadership for the future, by the way. Here's the sixth culture killer: overloading top performers. Your best people aren't stronger. Let me say that again. Your best people aren't stronger. They're just more willing. And that willingness gets exploited, often unintentionally. Because look, we know, hey, Sally will get it done. Sally's someone I can trust. Sally's someone I don't have to micromanage. And then we just keep piling more and more and more onto Sally's shoulders. And then eventually Sally gets burnt out. The Society for Human Resource Management shows that top performers who are consistently overloaded are twice as likely to burn out and 3 times more likely to disengage emotionally before leaving. Meaning they just quit caring. They quit caring about you. They quit caring about the team. They quit caring about communicating with you. And then they just come in one day and say, hey, boss, I've got another job. I'm leaving. And you feel like you've been blindsided. But as leaders, we got to get engaged in this and understand we got to create balance within the workload for our teams, not continue to pile more on to our high performers. High performance should be rewarded with leverage, not more weight. Arianna Huffington says this: burnout doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too much of what doesn't matter. So here's your shift I want to share with you from this silent culture killer. Protect your top talent. You can't afford to lose them. If you let all your top talent leave, guess what you're left with? Those poor performers, those low performers. Now who's doing all the work? Redistribute intelligently. You got to build this team. You got to get everybody on the same page. You got to get everybody moving in the same direction. Sustainable excellence beats short-term heroics. So sometimes, even though you can get Sally to do it quickly and right now, you risk burning her out, risk losing her, and not building up this sustainable excellence that we're after for the long term. That takes leadership thinking that maybe you're not doing right now. And I hope that point just challenge you to evaluate where you're at with your current team and how you've distributed the workload. Here's number 7, a lack of work-life balance. Always on cultures don't create commitment. They create compliance until people break. Look, sending texts at 10 o'clock at night, making phone calls at 10 o'clock at night when your people should be relaxing, resting, sleeping, enjoying family time. It's not work-life balance. World Health Organization data links chronic overwork to increased anxiety and depression, higher cardiovascular risk, reduced long-term productivity. Burnout is not a resilience problem. It's a leadership design flaw. You don't build business by burning out the people who run it. So I want you to understand this. You have to, as a leader and as an organizational leader, you need to care about the health of your people, the well-being of your people. Look, over the last few years, especially since COVID, we've heard nothing about no less information about the well-being of our people. But we went back to the same type of work that we're doing. And look, I'm a hard worker. I'm self-employed. I work long hours, many, many days. But I'm also really engaged in my well-being, my mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. You as a leader have to own that for your people. Encourage that. It's not your responsibility to make them healthy or spiritually or mentally fit, but you got to provide space for that. And part of that is at 5:00, work is over. They go home and they get to spend time doing what they like to do, not answering your texts or answering your phone calls or doing more work. We've got to challenge them to put work away once in a while. Look, I understand leadership never stops. But as a leader of leaders, you've got to encourage them to put the leadership mantle down once in a while and invest in themselves mentally, spiritually, physically. So here's your shift. Model boundaries. You got to model what you're asking and what you expect from your team. You have to reward effectiveness, not exhaustion. And then you have to understand that rested leaders make better decisions. So you want to challenge them to take care of themselves, rest well, eat well, drink plenty of water, encourage this self-care as a leader. But you do that by being a great model of that as well. And here's the 8th and final silent culture killer: silent meetings. When meetings are quiet, it's not alignment, it's fear. People don't speak up when they don't feel safe, when they've been punished before, or they believe nothing will change. Your job as a leader is to get collaboration, get interaction in these meetings, get ideas, even if people feel they're dumb ideas, get ideas out on the table. Get ideas coming together, fleshing them out is better than one person's idea. It helps, even if that one person's idea is a great idea, it's the perspective from other people that makes that idea better, to make it rock through the organization, to move the organization forward. Google's Project Aristotle found that psychological safety was the #1 predictor of high-performing teams. So silence is a signal, and leaders must learn to read it. Silence doesn't mean agreement. It may mean fear. It may mean that they've been shut down before, and your job is to make sure that you pull those ideas out. Amy Edmondson puts it this way: if people aren't speaking up, it's usually because they've learned it's unsafe to do so. So here's your shift. Invite dissent. Invite these ideas. Reward challenge. Make curiosity louder than the hierarchy. Like, take your titles off. Invite this curiosity, invite these conversations. And sure, you may be the CEO or senior level leader, but take that title off in these meetings. And maybe you make the final decision once all the ideas are put out on the table. But you gotta leave your title outside in the hallway before you walk into the meeting room or conference room, so that you get this feedback and collaboration that you're after. So here's the leadership question. Culture doesn't fail loudly. It erodes quietly through what leaders tolerate, ignore, or delay. The question isn't, do we have these culture killers? The question is, which ones have we normalized? Because I promise you, you've got a few of these in your culture. Every organization that I go into struggle with one or maybe all of these, but at least a few. Because leadership isn't about intention, it's about impact. This is why you got to ask the question, which ones have we normalized? Culture is not what you say, it's what people experience when you're not in the room. So what I hope I've done today is challenge you to just look into your culture, maybe re-listen. I hope you took notes. Maybe re-listen to this. If I can help you, reach out to me. We'll help you kind of identify some of these things. We've got tools and tactics, things that we can do with your organization to help you identify these things. Reach out to me, Mike@harborresources.com. We want to help you move your culture forward, remove the silence in the organization, create standards of excellence, and move the organization forward with velocity that's required today in the industry that you're in. Hey, this has been Mike Harbour on the Lead Up Podcast, where leadership begins before the title and shows up in every decision. I hope you'll continue to tune in. Share this audio with your friends. If you're a senior level executive, I recommend y'all set aside some meeting time. Set aside 30 minutes. Listen to this episode, discuss it amongst the executive team, and challenge each other to answer the question, where have we normalized one or many of these silent culture killers? Hey, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of the Lead Up Podcast.